Peace, family. This is your boy Gerald. It is the 5th, halfway through your week, which is Wednesday, uh, Wednesday, the 5th of February, 2020. How is everybody doing? And for a second, I was kind of conflicted on how I was going to put this out, but I knew I had to put this out nonetheless. Um, so right off the bat, thank you for those people who have found my channel, that it has given you a different perspective on your outlook and how it applies to not only your life, your direction. I hope it's given you some insight and shown how special your life really is. I wanted to put that out right off the bat because some of you have been watching me almost 7 years now, and there is no words that I can convey to you how grateful. You're the reason why I put the videos out when I do, because when I had my epiphany nearly, like I said, yeah, October 1st of 2011, I knew that my life not only was going to change, but there was going to be a lot of challenges and paradigms that I had to acknowledge. And you've heard me through the years put in the videos that proverbial saying of the proverbial statement of, do you know who you are? Do you know? Because the moment that you're able to answer that one question, it is going to either validate where you are right now, or it's going to show you where you're headed. Now, we can agree that life is about ebbs and flows. You have the dark, you have the light, and you are the common denominator of how that environment is going to be played out, as well as what you're going to experience. And I'm gonna tell you what, fam. These last couple of days, first and foremost, if you don't have a connection with your belief system, you will not be able to understand your direction. First and foremost, there are there are countless uh, dogmas out there in which they all coincide. First and foremost, what separates uh, the message is really the viewpoint of where it is in your life that you receive it. But as long as it's positive, long as it's uplifting, as long as you're able to get something out of it, it's meant to reach you as it should. But life is not so simple. Life is not perfect. But I'm gonna tell you what though, the more and more you make the conscious decision to go within yourself, the things that you don't know, they'll be revealed. And some of those things that will be revealed can be downright fearful. You're going to be terrified because, from the literal sense, it's knowledge that possibly you were not aware of. Maybe it was suppressed and it was used as a tactic. But the one thing that we can all agree upon is this: with information, once it is revealed, you can't unload it. You can't unlearn it. You can't unlearn it. Now, what you choose to do with that knowledge and information, that's on you because it's free will. And with that being said, all it does is validate how special your life is. Now, right now, you might be going through a season where it seems like the world literally is on your shoulders. Things don't make sense. Every time you turn around, there's another pushback. There's another disappointment. But take this in consideration. You know why all this stuff is happening? Why all these things are showing you being shown these things right now? Because on the other side, if you decide to first ground your feet, that means you got to be still within yourself. How can you make the proper decisions for the direction or the choices that you're going to take if you're not grounded? That is why you've heard from the Most High. No matter how it's been interpreted, no matter how it's been disseminated, the one thing that's always been echoed was this: be true to thyself. And haven't you noticed every time that you choose not to listen to your spirit? You might know it as your intuition, you may know it as your gut. Some may even try to water it down and say, oh, that was just fate. Ain't nothing about fate. Everything's divinely done. It's divine law. When you decide to ground yourself, and just from a literal sense, take stock in what is and what isn't in your direct environment. Watch the pattern. Watch the relationships that it has to you. Don't need permission from nobody else. You don't need an audience because everything that is being received from the outside to you internally was custom tailored so you can receive it. That's why pride is temporary. That's why denial can't withstand the truth. That is why we've always heard people, which comes divinely from the Most High, what is done in the dark comes to the light. You know why? Because it has to take its rightful place, rightful acknowledgement. Now, once it is revealed, you got to make a choice. I'll do it in reverse for you. You remember that challenge that you had? You know, the challenge that messed with your sleep patterns, had you thinking that you were crazy? You weren't crazy. You were convinced. You did the math, you carried the one, and you still got the same answer. That's not by chance. That's because it was meant for you at that moment to take your rightful place. Now, I'm not going to sound cynical, and I'm darn sure not going to be passive aggressive because all I can ever do is all as I've always been has been transparent to the intended heart, intended mind at the intended time. See, I can't make you come to this channel. But what does your spirit tell you? Hmm? That is what I'm speaking to. Because this means nothing. That's why the first moment that you were birthed outside your mother's womb, your body began to age. We know this as growth. And haven't you noticed the more that you grow, the more knowledge you receive? But the variable in between that process requires responsibility of that said knowledge. That is why today, family, there has been a deliberate attempt to project a certain narrative that has worked economically about mental health. Haven't you noticed that when you seek medical attention and you ask directly, you never really get a direct answer back, right? Truth is, mankind can only answer 50% of what is presented, no matter how hard, no matter how much advancement us as a people push. Because still to this day, we cannot explain why the human body responds the way it does, or why we only are able to tap into 6% of our brain. So, not to be distracted, I was getting ready for work. I'm getting ready to start my day momentarily. And like many of you, you notice when you're bathing, your mind starts to drift, and things that you may have not have considered thinking about, they're brought to you, right? You may have the same effect when you're starting your day and you're behind the steering wheel and you're focused on the road, and you may have a trigger, maybe by the music that you listen to or a conversation that you happen to hear indirectly, and it sparks thought. Family, the one thing that we never give credit is our presence of when these things happen. We never actually look at why. Why was I afforded the opportunity to hear that conversation or see that event, but yet it resonates in you? Why? Because the Most High already knows your life. He created you. And just as the Most High knows your direction, there's a battle going for it. And you know that you know him as the day star, you may know him as Lucifer, you may know him as Satan. You may look at it from a perspective of just science and saying that is lower vibration, which the contradiction would be the ultimate, which is agape, unconditional love. Unconditional love is unbreakable because it represents truth. So, with that being said, I want to convey to you this. For a long time, I've always spoke on my channels that how important it is for you to know who you are. And as I really embrace that in my life, first of all, I'm not going to tell you something that I don't strive to live the example of. Now, granted, I am not perfect. I'm not by far. And now that, matter of fact, next month, March 7th, God willing, I'll be turning 51. Do I feel it? Hell no. I feel like I'm in my 20s. I'm very vibrant. Not ready for the lazy boy by no means. But I also know that that means that he has a lot of work that he needs me to do before my last breath, and I'm going to intend to do so. And the one thing that he's put on my spirit, um, these last, I can genuinely say, last 4, almost 5 years, even though I don't speak of it because just thinking about it would just break me, you know. I know someone's like, you're a Pisces. Pisces are emotional. Yes, we are. We're spiritual too. But the one thing that I always held dear was legacy, being afforded through time and maturity to be in position to pass the torch to those connected to me by blood and bone and those who I have shared by way of compassion. That's how you live forever. And I know that one of my challenges for this life was to love myself. And I remember, not to be winded, approximately 4 years ago. This is when I was in my apartment. And I happened to, it was just me and Tyson at the time. And Tyson and I have a routine when he goes to use the restroom and I feed him. And where my apartment was, there was a lot of foliage, a lot of natural trees, and so the one thing I would do, uh, not to be winded, I would always make a point to go out on my patio and I would go out there and sit there and I would just listen to nature. And in turn, while listening to nature and taking in what was being shown, I would pray. And that's where the term stay prayed up came from. But that was also validation for me to, through his means, that I got something better for you. It's going to require some work and some preparation, but trust and believe the journey is worth it. And I never turned away from that. There was many a nights, many a days where I was, you know, I don't want to say like being a hermit, but I didn't have the desire to go out and interact. I didn't want to, because what I was learning was how to be compassionate with myself, actually being grateful for that time. And I think that just by me saying this now, I think this message is for somebody, because you may be in a period right now where you're starting to second guess your direction by way of your connections. And you're thinking that life as you know it is, you're unlovable. Nobody cares. Actually, what's going on is the actual time afforded to you so that number one, you can heal your emotional wounds. Number two, see your strengths, acknowledge your truth. And lastly, understand how much your worth matters. Because those are the things that are going to be required if you're going to even entertain this word called manifestation. That's why our elders would say, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. It's true. What you focus on becomes your trajectory of your direction. Anything that you invest in will be the reward, good or bad. So, with that being said, I felt I felt that it was very important just to drop that on somebody, because I think somebody really, really needs it because they had a reality check that, well, on the outside, I'm in a good spot, but in the inside, I'm hollow. People don't get me. Why is it that I've got to go beyond the call of duty just to get a hello back? You may be feeling that. And I'm here to tell you that's nothing but an illusion. Because what is really going to happen is the moment that you decide that you love you, not only will you gain insight and wisdom, but you'll also understand what your foundation is, what you stand for, as well as the responsibility of what people are attracted to. Because you can't put your direction based off on the physicality because we age every moment. Yes, you may be that person that you are alluring to the eye. Enjoy, enjoy your mortality. Enjoy it, but don't take it for granted. Because there are plenty of people that, as they say, proverbially, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And just like that, it's gone because of divine circumstances. How many times have you seen this? I'm just because I feel the urge to speak this. How many times y'all seen that handsome guy or that beautiful girl, but then when you got to meet them, the personality made them dark, made them ugly, only to find out, unfortunately, something was put in front of their lives so that they would have to humble themselves down. That's not by chance. You might know that as karma. So I shared 2 months ago that God revealed that I have a son. Now, in my heart and spirit, that's my boy. That's one thing I will say every biological parent, regardless of the relationship, remember the first moment you looked upon your child. You know why we do that? We do that so we can spiritually see the connection. That's why you hear people say, unfortunately, I don't see the connection. And then they say, well, I don't see the likeness. Nah, because looks change. They change because of natural hereditary and genetics. And the funny thing about it is, I've always believed God affords the image of the parent that has the biggest heart. Usually it plays out when that person is absent. Now, here's the downside of that. You also see this play out where the parent, knowing or unbeknownst to them, and the child is reared, that child may have unnecessary struggles because the mother or the father, whoever the custodian is, every time they look at that child, they see that person. Mhm. You might also see that, especially if there's other children. You may know that as sibling nepotism. You may know that as proverbially the golden child, the scapegoat. The golden child can do no wrong, but it usually is doing the wrong. And the scapegoat gets, it's like what they say, the runt of the litter. But that is actually the shooting star. And that's because the parent has guilt and has not come to terms. And unfortunately, struggle comes in that too. And it shouldn't be that. And I've always been a strong proponent about uh, absentee parents. I represent that to the fullest because you have just as many mothers or fathers that want nothing more than to be involved in their children's development, but because of legalities or usually uh, emotional decisiveness because of family members coming in between, they're pushed out. No matter what they bring to the table, economically, they could be doing things to the left, but everybody knows every child deserves the right to know their parents biologically. Now, we live in an era where you have a lot of blended families. Yes. So that's why now, more than ever, you may have this may be your biological mother, but that is your mom. That might be your biological father, but that's your dad. They're there in your day to day. They have the most access in your development as well as influence. That could also be transcended if the scenario is you have elders that have taken on the responsibility in your development. There's a lot of people that were raised by their grandparents because, truth be known, the mother or the father was not mature enough to take on the responsibility. So, as an act of compassion, the elder would step in and say, well, look here, you get your life together. And when you're ready, you need to come, you need to be back in your child's life, you know. But the one thing I've come to learn, family, is when it comes to children, no matter the age, that door will never be closed because there's still answers that have to be given by the parent. There are going to be endless questions that must be validated in the child because indirectly, through heredity, through spiritual influence, you will see that play out countless times in that child's life. That's why you hear the saying, what's that saying goes? The sins of the sin. My mouth is getting in the way. The sins of the father end up being the tears of the child. It's true, and you can apply that to the mother. You can apply that too. But I'm a firm believer that God makes a way when there is no way. but you have to make a decision. What does your foundation stand on? Because he doesn't want you lukewarm. That's why he said, come as you are. He doesn't care what you possess. What he's searching for is your heart. And once you're willing to give him your heart, he's about to give you your life. You're not supposed to be going through life struggling. You realize how many people, unfortunately, can't make it through the day because they have to take that one pill to keep the edge off. When in actuality, maybe what they really, really needed was to feel whole. Maybe they needed that one angst that's inside them to be healed because the requirement is the connection of who they're connected to by blood and bone. Maybe that hug. How about that phone call? How you doing? I know we haven't talked in a long time, but I hope you're well. And start from there. But as long as we keep pride in front of our steps, you won't understand who you really are. You won't understand how special your life really is. That's why we constantly bump our head with life. The times you keep saying, well, why am I going through all this? Why does it seem like I got bad luck? It's not that you got bad luck. It just means you're not, this ain't your life. It's like putting a square in a circle. It's you're gonna constantly find conflict because it's not yours. That's why I've always said imitation is not flattery. It's a life unclaimed. But just know this, as long as you hear my voice, and I'm saying that proverbially, meaning as long as you got air in your lungs, you got an opportunity to pull back the veil. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some work. But the more you work at it, the stronger you get. And the stronger you get, the more you can claim. Because guess what? You acknowledge and you take on that responsibility called you. Lastly, and I hope this reaches the right person at the right time. And I know it does, because prayers come up so blessings come down. If by chance you are in a scenario where your family is disconnected, maybe because you're the parent or the child or the sibling, love yourself more and claim your extension. Claim your connection, your rightful connection back. Because all you're doing is robbing yourself. You're cheating yourself of the greatest gift ever, and that's time. The greatest gift you could ever bestow a person is being present to watch them grow. That's where the term present come from for Christmas. You are the present. You always was. And I guarantee you, when you're willing to do that, guess what's going to happen? You won't have to worry about reassurance because you'll be able to see the most beautiful thing ever, and that's your smile. Haven't you noticed your smile proverbially is the same as a diamond? No two are alike, but they're beautiful when they're given. Think about that. But none of that matters until you decide that you're going to make a decision to claim your life back. Tired of struggling? Look at what you're standing on. You tired of the drama? Take the road less traveled. The road goes back within. So from me to you, I hope you have a blessed week. Love to hear from you, excuse me. It's about this is gonna be your year. 2020, you see clearly. No excuses, no reward until you do the work that's required. Have a blessed day. Peace.